Alright, hello all you crazy people out there, my name is Dragonite, and welcome to a new thing I'm doing. So, a while ago, a lot of you probably are aware that I was making a Pokemon game in Game Maker Studio. And I don't remember how much I've talked about this, but I have decided to stop doing that because at the time Nintendo was really being annoying about enforcing their trademarks. And since a 3D Pokemon game kind of sticks out like a sore thumb, I figured that if I ever figured out what I was doing, Nintendo would come after me in a heartbeat. And a couple months later, I have finally decided to go and make something that I can call original out of that game engine. And I also figure that since I've retired from making tutorials in Game Maker Studio, I still want to do things regarding making games. And this would be probably, if I'm able to pull it off, a fun substitute. It's just going to be basically me making a game in real time, not like the tower defense thing that I was doing a couple of years ago, but like a real enormous, like way biting off more than I can chew game because I like doing that sort of thing because I don't have a life. So anyway, this is a Trello board, and for lack of better terms, I've been calling it my game design document. I wrote most of it up in the middle of last night, so if it doesn't make too much sense, that's probably why. The first thing that I need to do, diving right in, is in here, I need to port the game engine from something related to Pokemon to something related to more of a general action RPG because those are the types of games that I like to play most of the time. I've already done things like strip out Pokemon because that's probably not going to be the most interesting thing to do on recording because it mostly amounted to me deleting code and reading error messages, and I don't really want to show that off in the first video. So without further ado, I'm going to start up the game, and it's probably going to run like trash because I'm recording this because I'm recording my computer screen at the same time. I love it when the telephone rings and I'm trying to record stuff. Anyway, this is, as I was saying, this game is probably going to run like trash because I'm recording my computer screen at the same time. The game is more well optimized than you would probably think looking at the frame rate indicator in the top of the screen, but I'll worry about that later. If you want to test this out on a computer that isn't a potato, I will hopefully remember to leave a link to an executable download in the description of this video. But anyway, come on, game. Alright, boot up, thank you. That is the silly loading screen I have. You may notice that some things are rather different than the last time I recorded this game, and this is actually running fairly smoothly. I'm surprised. For example, there's paw prints in the overhead compass. If I were to hit the pause menu, there are paw prints on the texture background as well. What else was I wanting to show off? As you can see, like Pokemon and stuff are gone from the menu because, as I think I said before, I've deleted those from the game because that wasn't very interesting and I didn't really want to show it on recording. I can go up slopes here, and something is really bizarre with the physics engine in this game when it comes to slopes. I'm going to have to fix that on my own time because I have a feeling that's not going to be making for very good video footage either. Let's see exactly how I'm going like sideways up. I'm hitting the up arrow on the keyboard, the W key on the keyboard, and I'm going sideways up the slopes. Anyway, we'll worry about that later. A lot of these graphics and textures are still from Pokemon, I should mention as well. These trees, I think, are from Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum. They look kind of bad, but that's an issue for another day. These walls are, I think, from the same game, maybe Heart Gold and Soul Silver, I can't remember. Anyway, let's see. Other things, there's not much to this right now. It's mostly just a, okay, so now the game is starting to chug. It's mostly just a, like a rendering and moving around engine. There's a few things. I can hit the pause button and go into a bunch of settings that I'm probably going to leave alone because these are, for the most part, working the way I want them to. Inventory, there's no inventory management. I don't know exactly how that's going to work yet. If you have any ideas, leave them in the comments. Let's see, what else is there? If I go into F2, there's all this stuff, my debug things that I'm probably going to leave alone as well. I could talk about this more if people want me to, but for the most part, I'm just going to probably not show most of my programming the debug menu because it's kind of boring, actually. Except for maybe like map settings, because the map settings could be kind of interesting. Anyway, let's see. I'm going to get out of here, and I'm going to look back at my Trello board and see what I have to do. Implement character classes. All right. I should probably explain. This is going to be based on it's going to be a silly kind of action adventure game based on like comic characters that I used to draw when I was in like 4th grade. Here's the character bio card that you can pause the video and read if you want to get a little bit more background information on. The nerd is basically no name to Dragonite, in other words, me, because I like to poke fun at myself, but that's not important right now. Anyway, character classes. I have an idea of how this is going to work. Right now, if I were to scroll down to objects, all of the game data, like items and stuff like that, all of the game data is stored in special objects that I like to call structs, which are basically deactivated objects that have variables but don't have events. And I'm going to go and duplicate, how about, let's duplicate item. And this can be character. No, I'll just call it class. And I can go into the create event and have a look at all of its variables. And we're going to have name, flag, parent, and summary are all kind of inherent to all types of data. I don't know why there's an event inherited in the create event of the parent class, because that's going to actually not doing anything. All of this, those are variables related to items. I could talk more about how I have implemented items if you want to know more about that in the future as well. Did I actually leave any details in notes about character classes? I did not. Oh. I did, but I put them further down on the checklist, so like I want to get to that later. Alright, for now the only important thing is going to be the name. And let's see, let's also duplicate construct item, so this is going to turn into construct class. And let's see, the enum for the class, none doesn't make any sense because, well, it does make sense to have like a placeholder for no item. It doesn't really make sense to have a placeholder for no character. So we're just going to have Chase. This should really be capitalized, shouldn't it? Chase, Fowler, and Joe. Fowler is a chicken and Joe is a snake. Chase is a dog. Just in case I need to explain that. It doesn't make very much sense, but you know what? I've already established that this game is not going to make very much sense, at least not from a seriousness perspective. Let's go duplicate add item, which is going to basically add a new template for an item. Let's change this to add class. Class, add class, and for now, all it's going to take is how about the name. So we can instantiate a class. This is basically shorthand for instance create at position 0, 0 in the room. Oh, nice. I added an optional argument so that you can name it as well. Alright, so let's instantiate class and name it after the first argument. And all of this can go because, again, this is related to items. Let's see. And then it returns itself. If I'm going too fast, if I'm like skipping over too much code that I've already written, let me know in the comments and I will try to explain things better in future videos. Anyway, let's move this off to the side. I'm going to move it to my second monitor because I still want to be able to look at it. Instead of global variable all items, we're going to make all classes, and all classes is going to be an array. This is basically instantiating an array. Since it's most efficient to initialize arrays from the top down instead of from like index 0 and going up, because it makes it easier for the computer when it comes to memory management and stuff. So the size is going to be classes.joe, and the default value is going to be no one because we're going to fill those in a minute. Let's see, all classes. This may not be the most interesting thing in the world yet, but classes.chase. If it sounds like I'm shivering, by the way, I don't know why, but I am. It's not particularly cold out, but I don't know, maybe I should throw on a sweater anyway. Let's see, anyway, Chase, add class, and the name is going to be just Chase, because he's a dog, and that's a popular name for dogs, apparently. I like that name for dogs. My aunt and uncle have a dog named Chase. He's a dork. Fowler is the chicken. In case you're wondering, yes, he's named after the rooster from Chicken Run. And Joe is the snake, and if you're wondering, I don't know why I named him Joe. So anyway, this should compile. I'm going to run the game again just to make sure. Oh, wait, first. It's obviously going to compile because there are no errors in it. But whether or not it's going to crash the game, it's most likely not going to crash the game, but just in case, I want to make sure. Now, if you can stop saving, I want to do one more thing before I run the game. Come on. One thing I don't like about Game Maker Studio, and there are not many things that I don't like about Game Maker Studio, is how it doesn't have the most efficient saving process. So before I need to call this code somewhere, basically. And there's a fancy script called init, which is basically where everything gets set up. This is the loading screen. And I'm just going to go, this is so that the game doesn't freeze for like 15 seconds at the beginning, so that you can see that something at least is happening. I'm just going to throw const classes. Oops. I'm just going to throw that. Const class? Oh, not classes, it's just class. I'm just going to throw that in one of the empty states here. Anyway, now the game should run, please. I totally just took a drink and spilled water all over my face. Alright, so this is another rather annoying feature of Game Maker Studio that I kind of forgot about. When you add new scripts, or I think new objects, and you run the game with the yo-yo compiler like I am now, it's going to spit out errors. And I don't know why adding new scripts precisely causes it to spit out errors, but I'm just going to have to go delete the script cache. You could also hit the broom to clean the compiler cache, but that's going to delete everything, including like texture pages, which I don't want because that's just going to make the recompilation process take even longer. So now I'm going to have to go and sit through that again. If you want to know how long that took, look at the little Bandicam ribbon down in the corner down here. Alright, it looks like the game has loaded up without crashing. I wasn't really expecting it to, but it's always better safe than sorry than to like write 100 lines of code without testing it and then have the whole thing blow up and not know why. I can close out of this now. Let's quit game. Yeah, thanks. And what else do I want to do? I should probably try to compile as few times as possible because it does take an obscenely long time to do that. Because A, my computer's a potato, and B, there's almost 19,000 lines of code in this behemoth. Let's see, what else did I want to do next? Implement character classes. I think I can check that off now. Assign a character class to the player and allow the player to swap between them. Alright, so I'm going to want to go down to, where is player? Somewhere in that object list is player. Alright, it's in entities. I'll explain entities at a later date, but for now the important part is going to be a lot of variables. And oh my god, this is horrible. Well, I'm gonna not think about all this right now. All the stuff that I'm doing on recording, I'll explain this if I really have to. I'll explain all this later. A lot of this is stuff to do with like systems that are already up and running. But you know what, I've never made a video like this before. I have no idea what people are going to really expect or want to see or anything like that. I'm going to say active character equals, how about, what is it, classes dot chase. Because he's the dog, he's the first protagonist, and alright, that's good. I've declared a variable. I know how to program. What else did I want to do with that? I should probably have a sprite or something like that, like a programmer art. Dog. Alright, hold up. I need to make this as simple as possible. I was going to, until a minute ago, I was going to actually try and like make an NPC for dog and chicken and snake and draw them on the screen like NPCs, but that is several steps ahead of where I probably really should be doing right now. Instead, I'm going to be going and where's the game HUD? World, I think it is. The draw event. Go to the draw HUD step. And somewhere in here, oh god, why did I write all this? This is 300 lines of awfulness. How do I put stuff on the game HUD? Fortunately, it looks like I've done a couple comments here and there. So, it shouldn't be completely awful. It's going to be completely awful. Let's see, this is title stuff. This is, what the crap is this for? Oh, this is still title stuff. Let's see, all of this is stuff that happens if the game isn't focused, and this is just, okay, this is what happens if you click out of the game window. That wasn't very helpful. Location signs, when you enter a new location, it shows up as text on the screen. I'll show that off later, I guess, or something like that. I don't know. Oh, here, mode, gameplay mode, when you're playing the game, as opposed to like in the debug menu. All right, so this is the compass, and I think if the pause menu is hidden, if the pause menu is not hidden, I don't know why I wrote it like this. This is terrible. Draw game HUD. Yeah, let's go with that. I'm waving my fingers at the computer screen right now because, wow, this is a mess. All right, I suppose in the graphics thing, draw presets, draw game HUD is the logical place to put this. Now I'm adding a new script and we're gonna have to like recompile all of the scripts in the game again, and that's gonna take 5 minutes. Draw game HUD. And all I really want to do, let's see, okay, thank you, the error message can go away, is draw at, how about draw text for now at, I kind of drew a diagram of how I want this to look on paper, but I can't find it right now because my disk is a mess. It's almost as bad as my code here. For now, let's draw at 32, 32. And the string is going to be, hang on. Let's say var, temporary variable, local variable, whatever. Active player. Is that the name? I don't know if that's the name of the variable I used for the, like the player's current class a minute ago. Let's go with the var active equals all classes and player dot. What was the name of that variable? Active character. All right, so active character is just an enum value, and now that's going to be an object containing a reference to a character class. So I can just say active dot name, and I'm going to need a way for the game to know like the two inactive characters, but I'll worry about that later. I feel like this should be its own script, like something that would go under a name like a get active character or something like that, because that's going to come up a lot in this game. All right, whatever. Now, that's just going to draw the name on the screen, and I want a way to be able to switch between them. And not in the player object, but in movement player. This isn't quite as terrible, but this is another awful script that's looking at movement. Basically, this is, I can't even read this, but this is, what even is this? Where is actual moving around? Oh, X speed and Y speed, that's probably actual moving around. Something to do with kinetic friction, which is part of the physics engine that I want to get rid of later. Anyway, at the end of this, I'm going to say if, how about, what's the tab key used for? Because, okay, so the tab key is basically the X button. I'm trying to keep mouse and keyboard and gamepad controls the same. Like, all of the important keys on the keyboard are mapped to a gamepad key button, whatever. And when I want to get input, I can just say controller.x for the X button, or press X probably, because that's more appropriate. I don't want it to be continually firing when the X button is pressed. Player dot, what was the name? Active character plus plus. And no, I don't really want to do this. Yeah, let's go with plus plus, and if player dot active character is greater than classes dot or no, let's do this properly. Array length 1D, all classes, how do you spell that? Player dot active character equals, I keep typing characters instead of classes. Classes dot chase. Alright, so there are neater ways to do this. There's also more computer science teacher would not get mad at me for doing this ways to do this. But since I want this to be semi-readable and not just one ugly assignment statement like it can be, I'm going to be leaving it alone for now. Anyway, do I want to run the game yet? I'm torn between actually wanting to run the game and explain how the controller object works. Basically, it just gathers all of the input in the begin step event so that you don't have to go and say like gamepad button check every step, because this is actually, these functions, gathering input, whether from the gamepad or from the keyboard, is actually rather slow, and I'd rather do it once and assign it to a variable than continuously ask for, is the key pressed, is the gamepad button pressed, or anything like that. It just makes my life easier because all I have to do is say controller.press X or whatever. Anyway, I am going to have to clear the compiler cache again, and I'm going to run the game. And when I run the game, there should be some things happening on the screen that I'll worry about when I get there, I guess. Alright, so the game has started, and I see there's Chase in the corner. I'm hitting the tab key. Something broke. Perfect! I didn't even get a good look at what was going on there. That probably suggests to me that something else, some other control is mapped to the X key. What happens if I comment this out and do it again? Hang on. Alright, fortunately, once you have a compiler cache that doesn't break the game, things are a little bit better. I'm mashing the X button. What is the X button doing? What's it doing to the compass? That's weird. Alright, that's an issue that I'm going to have to resolve. Control Shift F, controller .x. Alright, so why do I have a script for this again? The X button doesn't do anything. Oh, HUD summary. What is this for? Oh, this is trainer card stuff. I thought I got rid of this when I thought I got rid of this when I got all the Pokemon stuff out of this game. Alright. I need to make sure this isn't being called anywhere where it shouldn't be. Alright, so it doesn't look like it is. What else does the X button do then? This is part of the debug screen. That's not relevant. Controller.x? That's really weird. VK tab. I shouldn't be... Is this hard-coded? Oh, this was, this is part of like a debug console. Alright, I shouldn't have this. I'm supposed to... I haven't implemented a debug console yet, like a console window where you can type in commands and make stuff happen. I may do that in the future, I'm undecided so far. But that is a duplicate code. Like, that's interfering with the X button. And that was making weird things happen when I hit the X button. Or when I hit the tab key instead of the X button. Because, it's sort of operating independently from the rest of the game, and I don't like that. Let's see, to make sure that there's nothing else going on here, get current key. Oh, this is gather and control input in like special cases, like when you're trying to, I think, type into the game itself. I don't remember. All right, so that shouldn't be happening anymore. Let's see, going back here, control when you press X, active character plus. And I did see an error message pop up earlier, but I didn't actually read it, so I feel like I should just run the game again and see what happens. Oh, I know. This should be equals, because the length of the array is equal to 1 plus the last index in the array. Alright, there we go. Let's run the game again. Now I should be able to cycle through them without an issue. And here we go. The game is loaded. We're at the title screen. And Chase, Fowler, Joe, Chase, Fowler, Joe, Chase, Fowler, Joe. Alright, so I can switch between characters. And I suppose that qualifies me to check off this box too. And I've been recording for 40 minutes. I don't know how long this is going to be edited down to, but I do want to keep going because I feel like I haven't actually gotten that much done yet. Implement major stat categories. I actually don't want to do that. I want to have some graphical representation of the characters on the screen. And alright, so swapping between first and third person. The Pokemon game was in first person because, like, game design reasons. Like, I wanted the player who was in the chair with the controller to actually feel like they were in the game world. But in this case, I'll be going with the third person game. I'll probably have an option to switch between first and third person because it's more like the player is watching the main characters, the dog, the chicken, and the snake. And I just feel like that would make more sense to have a third person camera, like the difference between like the Harry Potter games and the I don't know, Skyrim or something like that, or an FPS or something like that. Well, I suppose that, and it's just easier to aim a gun in first person than an FPS, but never mind. This is done. I can, I'm waving my finger at the screen again because I have forgotten what I want to do. Oh yeah, cameras. Let's see, the camera is, I didn't spell camera right. The camera is an object in the game that basically, it's the only other visible object in the game besides the world itself. And I believe in begin step is where its motion is handled. And oh good, I actually still have code from when this was when the Pokemon game had code for being third person, which was like a year plus ago. And I never deleted that. And I thought I did, and I'm happy. Let's see. I'm kind of reading the first person code just to actually see how it works and see if there's anything that I want to like pilfer off of it. Distance. That is if I, okay, that's not going to help me. That is if I recall a variable that tells how far away from the character's head you are. It's basically the distance away from the camera, basically the distance the camera is from the player. Cameras, I don't know if I like this or not. What is this hook.height business? This is like, I believe it's from when I had like the player controlling Pokemon, and different Pokemon were supposed to be different heights off the ground. Like a Bulbasaur is obviously shorter than a Charizard. I don't like this. I don't like most of the code in this game, and I'm going to have to come to terms with that. But, alright, let's just see what happens. Let's just see what blows up when in movement player down here, I'm going to say if controller.press ls. I think that's what it is. Or it should be press right stick. All right, but that's the code I used for it. When you press the right stick on the controller, which should be pressing the mouse wheel when you're playing with mouse and keyboard, camera.pov equals, what was it? I can't remember what the this is awful. I was just reading it too. The free point of view is for like the title screen and cutscenes and stuff. Miscellaneous enum.camera first, camera third, camera whatever. All right, got it. And misc.cam first. Unfortunately, I can't say if. Can I say if is this allowed? This is not allowed. Oh, can I actually do this? I've been using Game Maker for God knows how many years, and I never knew that I could do this. Alright, so secondly, I can't just say like camera point of view equals, that was awful. I can't just say camera.point of view equals inverse of camera.point of view because this is an arbitrary enum value. Hang on, I want to read up on if statements real quick. Can I actually do this? It doesn't look like I can, but there have been instances of There have been instances of things going undocumented in the Game Maker manual before. And I know that this doesn't throw a compiler if I throw a semicolon after the parentheses on the if statement. Is this actually going to work? If so, this is awesome. This was, like, the fact that you could throw if statements at the end of assignment expressions to make them conditional to, well, not just assignment expressions, but expressions in general to make them only execute if the condition is true. That used to be like my least favorite feature in languages like Ruby. And okay, so that's just going to be a malformed if statement. That's a shame. I want to say that's on the roadmap for things that you can do in Game Maker Studio 2, but don't quote me on that. And in any case, I'm not going to be using Game Maker Studio 2 any day soon, so let me take a moment and format this properly. All right, so this is how Game Maker is going to want me to format my if statements. That's strange that it doesn't throw a compile error, like a syntax error, like a red message on the code editor window when you try to use if statements like that. All right, I'm not going to think about that anymore. Anyway, compile time. All right, here we are, and let's see, I hit the middle mouse button, nothing happens. Maybe that's not the key. I'm going to pick up my gamepad off the floor and hit the right stick. All right, so there is no actual representation for the character, and it looks rather funny. You know what? I just realized how annoying this footstep noise is. I'm going to go get rid of that footstep noise. But I would like it to transition smoothly between I would like it to transition smoothly between first and third person, but that's an issue for another day. You know what? I could make the first and third person camera like the same. And just first person is basically distance to player equals 0. I could do that. I don't want to do that though. Because I want to like draw the dog's nose and the chicken's beak in first person, and that wouldn't make much sense to do in third person. I'll have to sleep on that. All right, well, first I'm going to stop this, and I'm gonna have to learn what the middle mouse button is on the mouse and keyboard, or I'm gonna have to learn what the right stick is on the mouse and keyboard. If anyone's wondering, I'm basically copying the controls from Skyrim at this point, at least when it comes to camera movement. There are also a couple more fine-tuning things that I should probably do when it comes to the camera in third person, but I'll worry about that at a later date. As long as it's functional right now, I'm happy. But anyway, I think it's SE footprint? No. What's the sound effect for footprints? This is going to take a minute to find. Hang on, I'm going to go sounds, sound effects, effects, SE. I still have Pokemon sound effects in here. Environmental? Oh, SE footstep. Alright, I'm going to get rid of this, and in create footprint, I was all of a sudden getting unbelievably annoyed by that sound effect later, by that sound effect when I was running around for some reason. This is just the script that creates the particles of the footprint. I call them particles, but it's really the graphics for the footprint on the ground. I'll probably come back to that script later as well, because obviously different animals are going to have, let's get rid of that sound effect altogether. Obviously different animals are going to have different footprint types, like a dog is going to have the paw print that's on the compass, and a chicken is going to have like a bird print. And to be honest, I don't know what kind of footprint Joe is going to have. Anyway, do I want to check this off? Oh, I did make a note to say program the controls if they're not already there, which means I won't check that off yet. Which means, or which suggests to me now, I don't know what I was thinking in the middle of last night, but it suggests to me now that I did want myself to program a smooth transition between first and third person. Also, I just remember this, but player. What exactly is drawn in the player? Okay, so I have a script that says draw player. Instead of having everything in the draw event, all of the entities in my game world are invisible, and instead they have a render script. I didn't mean to middle click that. Instead they have a variable called render script, which is basically the method that runs that the game world calls when it's time to draw them, because I want everything to be drawn in a very specific order. I'll get more into that later. If camera.point of view equals no, if camera.point of view not equals, sorry about that, the first person. Otherwise, we'll draw, just for now. I could. I know I don't think I showed this earlier, but I have in here characters, animals, and this is going to be a temporary graphic for Fowler. It's just a chicken that I got off the internet somewhere that was formatted for RPG Maker. And I'm just going to duplicate this for Chase, B-C-H-R, Chase. And I'm just going to go, how about, can I convert this to black? No, not in there. Since in my headcanon, Chase is a black Labrador. So I'm going to go, where is it? Intensity? All right, cool. Value is 0, saturation is 0, whatever. That's just going to make these sprites black and, well, black. And it's not a dog, but it'll do. And for Joe, I'm going to do the same thing, B-C-H-R, Joe. And instead of a snake, I'm just going to dye all of these orange. Because, again, in my headcanon, Joe is a milk snake. If you don't know what those look like, they're basically these guys, orange and black. Yeah, that's a milk snake, that's Joe. Although, for whatever reason, I always colored his... I don't know why that's coming up. For whatever reason, I always colored his head orange, but apparently milk snake heads are black. Cool. I'll worry about that another day, but anyway, I'm dyeing all these orange, and these are going to be Joe. By the way, this just occurred to me now, after I've been drawing these characters and writing these characters since I was, like, 10 years old. But, are people going to be, like, skeeved out by having a playable character that's a snake? I don't even know why he's a snake in the first place. He just always was from, like, when I was little. I always thought snakes were just cool animals. But, that could be an issue. If, like, people actively don't like one of my characters just because he's a snake. Because I know snakes are rather weird animals. Alright, you know what? Never mind. I'm going to worry about that later. Next! Let's see. Const classes. I do want to assign that background to every one of these classes. So you are going to take B-C-H-R Chase. You're going to take B-C-H-R Fowler. And you are going to take B-C-H-R Joe. And I need to program something to actually happen to those arguments. Come on. Oh, that's right. I still have you open on my other screen over here. Image. Let's say image equals argument of 1. And image for the character class object, we're going to initialize this. You are going to be equal to the CHR Knight Sandy. Sandy-haired knight. This is like my default RPG Maker character. Hopefully this will never actually be assigned. This shouldn't ever actually be drawn as one of these characters because obvious reasons. But anyway, each character class knows what they look like now. And in third person, or rather in not first person, we're going to draw NPC. And is this safe? What's in draw NPC? Because at this point, the player is basically an NPC. I don't want to just draw NPC. I hate having to copy and paste code because you're really not supposed to. Like, if you want to copy and paste code ever, you should probably throw it in a method or function. But I may have to, because there are some inefficiencies here that I really want to not have when it comes to drawing my characters. Like, alright, let's copy and paste this. Copy and paste. And let's make this full screen for now. Entity.drawNPC. Within sight, so there's never going to be an instance where the player is too far away to be drawn. Alright, I can get rid of that. And this is just a debug line that I can get rid of. This is for animation. And I believe I talked about I made a tutorial a long time ago. I just don't even want to think about my tutorials now because they're just so much of a pain to make. But this is basically the same code with a couple extra lines, I think. Movement is random. I don't need to worry about movement is random. This is another debug feature that's if the NPC can walk around aimlessly on the game world, I wanted to draw on the screen the radius of where they can walk. That's not relevant right now. If argument counts as 0, that's also not relevant. Let's see. I did not want to create another object. Let's object go away. Where's that object that I just created? Go away. It's not actually going to affect anything, but It's just kind of bloating my my code base, and I don't like. All right, let's step through this. Set calling is false, which is there, which I want. This is the camera angle, which I want. The texture, the background texture height and width, which I want. I may. This is a scaler. This is a like a scale factor on the NPCs, which is hard coded, which I may want to change. All right, this is a little worrying. Draw background part all NPCs of the image. I'm going to want to do what I did when I drew the name of the active character on the screen, active.image. And all right, this is also going to go in here and here. And is there anything else that I need to change? I don't think so. Aside from actually assigning a value to active, var active equals all classes of player.active character. I've explained this line of code several times already. I don't think I have to do it again. You know what? Let's just run the game and see what happens. It may blow up because of the compiler cache again, in which case future self has to do a little bit of video editing, but hopefully it'll do what it's supposed to. Hang on. All right, it actually didn't blow up. That's pretty cool. Let's go and whoa! That is a texture page issue. That's probably because I added extra graphical resources. Wow. That looks glorious. What actually happens when... I believe that's supposed to be the compass. As funny as that sounds. Alright, so the chicken is animating. Or that's chase because it's dark. If I were to hit X, that's Y. If I were to hit X, that's Fowler, that's Joe because he's orange. Alright, so that sort of does what it's supposed to. I forgot about texture page issues. I love texture page issues. I should just leave my compass like that and not change it ever. But, let's see. It's also animating, which I don't want. I forgot why it does that. That's controlled by this line. Frame equals frame plus 1, max 1, the point distance. I believe when I was testing this earlier, this is a bug that I don't know what causes. When things animate like mad. Like, if I were to drag an NPC into the world, it would probably do that as well. First, let's clear the compiler cache, because I need to address those texture page issues. As hilarious as they are, they probably shouldn't be. They're going to make making a game really difficult. But now, is this the right... I almost don't want to worry about this for now. Basically what this does, it takes the distance between your previous point and your current point and does a little bit of math, and if you've moved since the last time the frame updated, it increases the animation frame. I don't know if I want to do that or if I just want to... I could also just make a variable like if is animating is true, then frame equals frame plus a value. I may just do that. That might be easier. Frame plus equals, how about 0. What's a good speed? It's been so long since I worked with image index. At 60 frames per second, let's say I want a walking cycle to take 1 second. So at 60 frames per second, that would be 3 divided by FPS. Or 3 divided by room speed. Alright, let's go with that. First I'll have to assign is animating to something. That's going to... Where is player? What exactly does player extend? Okay, so player extends entity, and as does NPC somewhere in here. What does NPC extend? Okay, so NPC, so I'm just going to... Where's frame of animation? Since I want this to work for both of them, I'm going to copy this into draw NPC. Again, copying pasting code drives me mad, but I'm going to do it anyway. Hang on, this really should be a constant in case I want to adjust it later. So I'll make it a constant times it's a really horrible name, but it's going to do the job. 3 times there are 3 frames of animation. and I'm just going to define a constant. We're going to make that 1. So if I want to make it like a half an animation frame per second, if I want it to slow down a little bit, all I have to do is change that value. What else is there? Oh yeah, is animating. Entity is the, I think I talked about this earlier, but where's frame? Frame is here, is animating equals false. Entities, I started mentioning this earlier, but entities are pretty much the base class for everything in the game world that you can interact with, whether that be an NPC or a house or a table and chair or something. I'll get into more detail about that later, I suppose. Let's run the game again. I'm going to have to... Oh, I just did clear the compiler cache. So 1, it's going to take forever to recompile. And 2, it should be fine after that. All right, I'll see you when the game's up and running. All right, the game is loaded, and I'm going to go and switch into a third person. I can't remember what the mouse and keyboard control for left stick is. Let's see. So good, you're not flailing your arms like mad. I want to end this off because I've been recording for more than an hour now, and I don't want this to go for too long. But the one more thing that I want to do is actually control the isAnimating variable. And let's see, where is movement player being called from? All right. Player step event. All right, so I can... Should I cheat and go into parent entity step event, defining z previous? That's not what I want. Movement. This will apply to things that use models, like 3D models that don't have frames of animation, like tables and chairs, in addition to NPCs. But, alright, this is actual movement. Let's see, this is all to do with basically optimizing the collision engine and moving. Oh, this is also to do with actually moving. Like, if I deleted this, you wouldn't be able to move around ever because there's no, like, x plus equals anything. I want to leave all this alone because the giant middle finger here is to tell me that I should not mess with this code because every time I mess with this code, things go horribly wrong. Let's see. At the end of this, alright, I guess if x not equals x previous or y not equals y previous, then isAnimating is true. Hang on, I like equals equals better than not equals. So let's reverse that. Else is false. Alright, I did not explain that very well, but let me say that again. If you haven't moved since the last frame that the game crunched, then you shouldn't be animating. And if you have moved since the last frame that the game crunched, you should be animating. Okay, so the last thing that I want to do before cutting it off for this video, I am going to go and run the game. All right, excellent. So let's do this, and I now have. All right, that animation speed is a little slow. Yeah, that animation speed is definitely a little slow. Let me go and bump up. All right, I keep prolonging the end of this video, and I'm sorry, but let's go and bump up. Where was that constant that I just added? Cycles per second. Let's make that 2 instead of 1. Alright, here we are again. I don't know exactly why the spawn position on this test map is like in the trees. Anyway, gaining control of the camera, and that still strikes me as a little slow. 1 Mississippi. Grr. Let me try that and clean the compiler cache again, because I have a feeling that change just didn't get saved. Alright, here we are. Let's go into third person. We're animating faster now. That still seems a little bit slow, but I'll leave it as it is for now. Okay. That looks really funny with a shadow of a chicken who's leaving behind footprints almost as big as he is. I'm going to end this video off here. Just doing my usual game development and talking through it and recording it is possibly the most fun thing I've done on my channel ever, and I'll probably be doing more of this. If you have any questions or feedback or suggestions for what to do in the future, leave them in the comments and I'll probably read them. I'm pretty bad at reading comments, but I'll probably read them. My name is Dragonite, and I will see you all later.